There are very few things that you can control in this world. Very, very few. But your emotions are one of them. Hi, I'm Felicia. I am the creator of Love Clearly here on my channel. We pretty much talk everything personal empowerment, motivation, mindset. We talk about motherhood, growth, development, just anything that can help shift perspective into the brighter side. So here today in this video, we're going to discuss mastering your emotions, because at the end of the day, again, there's very few that we can master, but our emotions, that is one of the few that is ours to control. Sometimes when we go through life, there's external things that can kind of want to sway you and kind of pull you in different directions. And us as women, we have our cycle that comes once a month, and that can be a whole different whirlwind of emotions. But surviving your day-to-days can only become prosperous if you actually sit down and get in tune with how you actually feel on the inside. Women are taught all the time to kind of forget how they're feeling and just do it anyways. Forget their emotions and do it anyways. And then when that emotional state builds up so much rage, it's as though it's a soda can that's been shaken. And I saw this theory a few years ago where it was basically like you can either be a water bottle or a soda can. A water bottle, you can shake it all you want. Nothing's really going to happen when you open the top. A soda can, you shake it. As soon as you open it, it's an explosion. And as somebody who used to be like a certified crash out, like you make me too mad, I'm going to just get upset. I'm going to rage. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say that. But in the end, when all the smoke clears, you're left feeling with your own. You're left with your own emotions. You're left with your own rage. And then instead of you getting the reaction that I guess you're looking for when you're upset, you always get pretty much the opposite. And then you're kind of left cycling your own feelings over and over and over again. You have to learn to master your emotions. That is one of the key things to actually living the life that you actually want to live and being on the brighter side of things. If you sit there and you let external chaos become your internal chaos and your emotions are constantly moving around, even though you can't always have a tangible feel of your emotions, your body will react. And what I've learned is that your body is always sending chemicals. It's either sending happy chemicals, good chemicals, positive chemicals, or it's sending negative chemicals, destructive chemicals, things that are literally going to eat away at your body. And you may not feel it when you're young. You may not feel it even when you're middle-aged. But as you get older, all the stress, all the rage, all the sadness, all the heavy energy that you were dealing with throughout all your life, that's where cancers can form. That's where disease can fester. That's where your body can really just begin to shut down because it's carried so much. Mastering your emotions isn't saying, oh, I'm not going to feel how I feel. I'm just going to push it on. Mastering your emotions is sitting with those feelings, figuring out why you're feeling that way, getting to a space where you can actually give yourself the words of affirmation that you were looking for. This is where soul work comes into play. This is where actually understanding where the root cause of that emotional state is coming from. A lot of us, we go through different things and we think it's just randomly happening, when really, if we were to reflect on our life, we would see how that same situation has replayed various times. And you felt the same emotion that you're feeling now many different times, and you've never truly figured out how to work through it. So what I would recommend is beginning with soul work, beginning with shadow work, beginning with understanding those bad feelings that you may have within you and figuring out the root cause. And when you get to that root cause, when you sit, whether it's in meditation, whether it's in spoken audible therapy, whether it's talking with a friend, going to see a therapist, whatever space you're in, but when you're talking and you're figuring out root causes and you're getting to the basis of why your emotions are just all over the place and you're not really able to keep a solid ground and a solid vibrational state for your nervous system, then you can kind of sit down and say, okay, what did I need at that time? How could I better serve that inner child in me that maybe didn't get that reassurance that they needed? And now they've kind of grown up into an adult. And when situations happen, they don't even know how to give themselves that reassurance. That's where really doing that soul work matters, because your emotions, they control way more than you think. You might think, oh, I don't feel good today. I'm a little sad. I'm just going to go sit here and be in this state. That's okay if you do it for one day, maybe even 2 days. But as you continue to sit in this state, you're eventually going to have your body go into a mode of just wanting to give you what you're looking for. You are saying you don't feel good, you feel sad. Okay, now all of a sudden you're actually sick and you have the flu and you have whatever, because now your body is like, okay, you're calling on sickness, you're calling on heavy energy. Let's go ahead and give that back to you. You have to figure out what it is that can serve your emotions in the long run. Some people, they need to go outside. Some people, they need to go to social gatherings. Some people need to watch an empowerment video of just how to actually get in tune with your emotions. And it starts with sitting in stillness. You won't know how you feel and why you feel how you feel until you sit down and you process it. You can't just jump from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. I know a lot of people, I call them, well, the world, I guess, calls them like serial lovers, where you go from one relationship, it ends, and you jump to the next relationship, and then the next relationship, and the next relationship, not realizing you're repeating patterns. You're repeating the same foolishness from the first relationship to the second to the third. But because you're constantly moving forward and you're constantly getting into another relationship, you don't really have time to really figure out why you feel how you feel. A lot of us go through childhood trauma regardless of your scale. But because that childhood trauma was never actually acknowledged, it wasn't healed, it wasn't worked on, you move into adulthood with these bad character traits with the excuse of, this is how I've always been. This is just how it is. When it's like, no, you can fix that. And it starts with your emotions. It starts with really understanding how you feel. It actually matters. I'm not saying to let your emotions dictate your life, but it matters in a way where you have to let it surface. I used to be somebody who, me and Mary Jane had a good relationship. And sometimes when you are a smoker, I guess, you can kind of numb your emotions and not really feel what you're supposed to be feeling and what actually is coming up. Instead of actually letting that emotion come up and deal with it, I would go and smoke, I'd go do this, and all of a sudden, what was I feeling? I don't know, I feel good now. But then what happens is adulthood comes, triggers still happen, and then you keep reacting the same way that you did, all because you never sat down and let yourself feel your emotions. When you feel your emotions and you allow yourself to figure out your root causes, what's actually feeling good to you and what's not, that's where you can kind of decipher what needs boundaries and what totally needs to be removed from your life. Your emotions are that internal, we all have an internal compass within us. And it's your emotions that kind of can sway that nozzle to be where you may not really want to be, but where your frequency is vibrating. You're vibrating heavy, you're going to swing heavy. You're vibrating light, you're going to swing light. But if your emotions are never being tapped into, you're never figuring out why you feel how you feel, then you're going to keep repeating cycles. And you have to get to a state. I'm about to be 31 in less than a week. I have gotten to a state where my emotions do not dictate what I do. My emotions, they matter, yes. My emotions are valuable, but they don't get to be the deciding factor of my day, because I can wake up and not feel so great. I can wake up and be on my cycle and not want to do anything, but that won't stop me. That all that can do is tell me, okay, I might have to slow down a little bit. I might not be able to take on so much on my plate and do everything that I have on my to-do list, but I can work it through gradually. And as I knock off one checklist, I knock off the next one and the next one. And then before you know it, the whole list is completed. And that's happened to me so many times. There's been so many times where like I've had to override my emotions, and I didn't feel like going to the gym. I didn't feel like writing my book. I didn't feel like doing the things that I had to do. But instead of sitting there and saying, you know what, I'll wait till I feel like it, I just did it anyways. And that's what has helped my life progress to where it's at now. And now I'm at a point where like I want to help my community know that you have to master those emotions. Those emotions can't dictate what you do on a daily basis. It can help you feel what you should and shouldn't do in a pace way, like as far as how fast or how slow you need to go, but you can never just stop. Because stopping is where all that work you've been doing, all the gradual, I guess, the increased energy that's setting up in place for you to get exactly what you want, it now just kind of goes to a complete halt because you stopped. Your emotions matter. And if you're in an environment where your emotions are just kind of on this emotional roller coaster, that's where you have to learn to pull yourself away. Go for a walk. Go sit in your car. Go on like a nature walk, go to the beach, go to the museum, just walk around the neighborhood, go do something outside of that environment, because the environment can sometimes make that loop continue, make that madness continue, especially if you're surrounded by people that don't want to do that soul work. A soul work isn't a group effort. Soul work is a personal effort. It's where you actually can say, okay, I know I deserve more than this. I know I want more in life than this. So I'm going to do the silent work that it takes to get me to where I need to be. And your emotions are a major factor in so many things, because you can physically look good. You can physically have everything you need on paper. But if emotionally you don't feel good, if your insecurities are building nonstop, if you're not in a safe environment, if you're dealing with a relationship that is not serving you and it's depleting you, if anything, and it's not this reciprocated energy, your emotions are still going to play a role no matter how good you look. Because when it's all said and done, when you're alone and all of a sudden something happens or you might get triggered, now this whole nother character comes out of you, because you've been sitting there building and building and building on this heavy emotion, all this negative things that's going on. Instead of feeling it, instead of expressing it, instead of healing it, processing it, and moving forward, it just festers. And it's a silent fester. And your emotions can give you a slow burn. You're not going to feel your emotions right away. We don't just wake up like, okay, emotions, talk to me. It's weird. I think there's a lot going on in the bigger picture of life that wants us to stay in this negative space, that wants us to stay low vibrational. All the food that we consume, the air quality, the water quality. There's so much things bigger than us that want us to live in this fight or flight state where you're constantly trying to figure out, you're constantly trying to run from, do this. We're taught to naturally get in these relationships that don't always serve us, but hey, because you have somebody, stay in that. Why do you have to stay in that? Because this one person wants to say, oh yeah, they love you, but their actions don't show you that. But because you have built all this time trying to get this relationship to work, trying to help build this man, help build yourself, help build whatever the case is, you're sitting there acting as though all that time and effort has to be the hill you die on. It doesn't. It doesn't. There's so many people out in this world, every county, every city, every state, every country. Everybody has their own population. And just because you might not find your ideal guy in your region doesn't mean you can't one day take a trip somewhere, or you go move somewhere and all of a sudden you find your soulmate and you find somebody who genuinely wants to love and pour into you. And you won't be able to receive that good energy if you're sitting there locking into a relationship that this person is not giving you anything of value. Not pouring love into you, not trying to bring the harmonious energy of a relationship into the household. Instead, it's this hectic chaos that can happen sometimes. And if the relationship is working, so be it. But if it's not, You have to know when to move. Same with the job. You might say, okay, I need this check, so I'm going to sit in this job. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to take on all the stuff, all the extra work, all the passive aggressive energy, all the chaos. I'm going to sit and take it. But then what happens when your emotions get tired of this? It's okay, I can take on more. It's okay, I'm fine. It's okay, let's go for more. Let's do this, let's do that. And then all of a sudden, one little thing happens, and now you are enraged. Now you are just so upset, and the world is literally ending. And now you don't even know where to start to pick up the pieces. This is where getting in tune with yourself, figuring out your emotions and what you want, what you don't want, what is working, what is not, where it needs boundaries, that is so essential. And it starts with stillness. It starts with really sitting down and saying, how do I feel? Once you figure out how, why do I, once you figure out how you feel, you say, why do I feel this way? After you figure out your whys, and you figure out, what do you need to help you through that? What do you need to reassure that energy that everything's okay, and that if the situation was ever to come up again, you'd be able to know how to thrive in that? That's where you have to kind of sit in that solace with yourself. And this doesn't always take having people to talk to. It just takes that time to sit and talk to self in a loving way. Because we sometimes can say things to ourselves that we would never say to anybody else. Why is that okay? Why is that so normal? Because we don't talk a lot about the soul work. We don't talk a lot about the internal change that has to happen to truly live the life that better serves you. And I feel like God is such a wise God, where there's so many things in place. There's Mother Nature, there's religions, there's just so much things that you can kind of tap into to help guide you in a more clarified way, of ways that can actually help ground you and really sit with self and say, okay, I feel this way. Let me do things to help myself feel better. Go where your soul thrives. Go where you feel good. Because, honey, a lot of places you might not feel that way. A lot of people might not give you that good energy. A lot of people might not want to help pull that wisdom up out of you. But if you have the determination and the willpower to graduate from whatever levels you've been at, and to know that, okay, that current version of you took you this far for a reason, but now there's a new version that needs to evolve for you to go that next step. And that starts with starting with the emotions that you've been carrying this whole time. Because emotions can become baggages that you carry. And you might think, okay, it's just my baggage, it's my emotions, all that matters. But then when you get into relationships, whether it's in the work field, whether it's family, whether it's actually intimate, those emotions that you've been carrying for all these years and have been suppressing, they still become the baggage that comes with you in that next phase. And when that person does something, because we're all human, things happen. When that person does something that triggers you, now all of a sudden that baggage of chaos, it's unleashed. And then all of a sudden that person's like, damn, I didn't even know you had that in you. And it's like, yeah, I didn't really know either. I know I felt I was carrying something, but I just didn't realize that I was actually, bringing this along with me. So spend time in your emotions, figure out what's going on, really sit there and be the captain of your vessel. Emotions are fine, but they cannot be the hill you die on. Emotions can't be what sets the tone for the day. Not at all. It can be respected. It can be acknowledged. It can be healed as far as you can take it, but it can't stop you from doing what you need to do, regardless of what's going on. And I'm going to leave you guys with this. So I heard this theory a few years ago that really was like Mount Everest. Once I learned this, I pretty much was like, wow, I can do anything now. What it is the fact that in life, right, something can happen to you. It doesn't matter what it is. You let your imagination take you wherever you want to go. But something can happen. The worst thing can happen to you. Or even the best thing can happen. But regardless, let's think more on the negative space, because that's kind of what we're looking to heal right now. Positivity can only get better. But regardless, let's say something happens to you. Something external happens that is just a blind side. You did nothing to involve this, but it happened to you. That is only 10% of your life. It's only 10%. The 90% is what you do about it. It's always what you do about it. And the only way to really take steps forward, feeling your full self, is by understanding the emotions that go into overcoming obstacles, the emotions that go into staying in situations you might not want to stay in, the emotions that go into having a dialogue with somebody that's not really able to kind of give you the words you're looking for. This is where the 10% matters only but so much. But what you do about it, how you spend your time, how you react, what you do when you're alone and behind closed doors, that's what's going to alter the rest of your life. Everything else, it was just that moment. Don't allow moments to be what determines your future. You be the captain of your vessel. You control your emotions. You let yourself know, okay, I understand, I acknowledge your feelings, but here's what we're going to do. Motion can change so much. Getting up and going, getting up and staying active can literally pull you out of any state that you're sitting in, especially depression, especially that heavy energy. If you're depressed, all I can recommend, and this is something that I have done many times when I have felt myself getting low, when I feel depressed, I literally will give myself rest. I will sleep. I'll turn the phone off. Resting is not sitting and scrolling, because when you're scrolling, that brain is still moving. You might not be crying and in your feelings, but you're scrolling and that brain is still actively working on something, even if it's not for your favor. So this is where you need to really turn off the phone, turn off the screen, sit in solace with yourself. Go to sleep. Get some rest. Get a good 8 hours. When you wake up again, the sun will rise and you will have that resilience to fight again. And you will know, okay, I got my rest. How do I feel? Why do I feel this way? What do I need? And then you keep pushing forward. Do not stop. The world is infinite. God has nothing but abundance ready for us. But we have to be in that alignment, and we have to know. We have to know ourselves, know our emotions, know what's going on, and know what we need, and know how to take care of self. Before we can take care of anybody else, you must take care of yourself. I am sending everybody so much peace, love, happiness, health, and wellness. I'm your girl, Felicia, and we will meet again. Bye for now.